Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to our lovely lecturer Dr. Munira Al-Wahidi and all my fellow friends. So today for group assignment, we will present about social influence. But before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Nur Izzati binti Zulkarnain and my number matric is 278815. So what is social influence? Basically, social influence can be defined as any change in an individual's thought, feeling, or behaviors caused by other people who may be actually present or whose presence is imagined, accepted, expected, or only implied. It is also can be exercise of social power by a person or group to change the attitude or behavior of others in a particular direction. The people who will often influence us, such as our parents, family, friends, organizations, scholars, political institutions, and significant others. According to the Harvard psychologist, which is Herbert Kalman, 1958, who proposed the social influence theory, the central themes of social influence is when individuals' attitudes, belief, and subsequent action or behavior are influenced by the different other through of three broad varieties, which is compliance, identifications, and internalization. Kalman also states that social influence brings a change in attitude and actions, and this change may happen differently among individuals because of the differences of the processes through which individuals accept the influence. One of the three primary processes of influence is compliance. Compliance is happen when people appear to agree with others but actually keep their dissenting opinions private. For example, individuals accept, influence, and adopt the behavior because they want to gain rewards, avoid punishment, or disapproval. Second is identification. It happens when people are influenced by someone because of respect in others to create or maintaining a desired and beneficial relationship to another person in group. And the last one is internalization. It is assumed to occur when people accept a belief or behavioral and agree both publicly and privately. It means that individuals accept influence after figure out the content of the induced behavior is rewarding, in which the content indicate the opinion and action of others. In this social influence, there are two of basic forms, which is implicit expectation and explicit expectation. For a basic meaning, implicit is a suggested though not directly expressed, and explicit is something that states clearly and in detail, leaving no room for confusion or doubt. Whereas for social influence, implicit expectation means unspoken rules. These forms are enforced by group norms. For example, you are attending for one party and you have to wear a dress code that have been told to you, and you have to follow it if you want to be accepted in that party. Implicit expectation also can be further subdivided into two types, which is conformity and social role. Conformity will happen when we voluntarily change our behavior to imitate the behavior of our peers. For example, we have one of best friend that's very like pink color, so that we tend to buy anything with pink color because we want to our best friends become closer with us. Next, the second for implicit expectation, which is social rule or expectation from a group about how certain people are supposed to look and behave. For example, we share the same stereotypes about how people who have a higher education should behave with others. We always think that people who have a higher education will treat politely when they meet with people, soft-spoken, and they know how to manage with their problems. Another example is we have stereotypes about how school teachers, professionals, experts, or university candidates in judge with others. This expectation is implicit because pupil will understand that some things, not all the rules, must be written down or formalized. Next, for the explicit expectation, it is clearly and formally stated, unlike implicit expectations. In the explicit expectations, they are also have two forms, which is compliance and obedience. Compliance can happen when we behave in response to a direct or indirect request, while obedience occurs when we behave in a particular way because someone of higher status has ordered we to do so. But why people accept social influence? People accept social influence to affect the behavior, actions, or thought due to several reasons, like we often conform to the norms of a group to gain acceptance of their members. Also, to experience a sense of belonging and to emphasize their shared idea. Not only that, group conformity also can be reason why people let them to be influenced. This is because group conformity can encourage cooperation when attempting to achieve a shared goal. So all the members can make a plan what they have to do to achieve their goals and how to maintain their momentum. Okay, next we go for the type of social influence. According to the Dutch Congress 1955, proposed two psychological needs that lead humans to conform to the expectation of others and main reasons as to why we conform. These two psychology needs is need to be right, which is informational social influence, and need to be liked, which is normative social influence. So we can see that there are two of social influence, which is normative social influence and informational social influence. But first we go for the normative social influence. Normative social influence is referred to the situation when pupil conforms to the norms of a group and conforms to the positive expectation of others. It is involved going along with the crowd in order to be liked and accepted. Normative social influence is associated with a person changing their social life but not their personal belief. For example, there are many of motivations that make an individual change their social behavior and conform to the norm of a group. One of these motivations is to avoid rejection. People who not accept or conform to the expectation social behaviors are often rejections from others, which is a situation that nobody likes and don't want to be close with them. The second motivation is acceptance, which is referred to the situation where a group identifies and recognizes a person as one of its own. From this, we can build a teamwork of that group because they like a big one family. And another type of social influence is informational influence. Unlike normative social influence, informational influence refers to the perception a person has that a group knows better than them or has more information than them. It is also involves individuals to go along with the crowd because they think the crowd knows more than they do. Informational influence occurs when people who lack of knowledge and seeks it from a group. This is because their interest is learning, not really the group. So they join the group because they want a knowledge. Also, we can say that with this influence, people can get some valuable information from that groups. So that's all for me. I will pass to the next presenter. Thank you.
Okay, Assalamualaikum and hi to everyone. My name is Siti Nur Adawiyah Kamarina binti Muhammad Nazami. My matric number is 281 and 326. So for today, I will present about 3 main behavioral consequences of social influence. Firstly, the first behavior is conformity. Conformity is a type of social influence defined as a change in belief or behavior in response to real or imagined social pressure. There are two factors that influence conformity. The firstly is situational factors and second is personal factors. In situational factors, the first factor is a group size. The bigger the majority of the group number, the more people conform and increase the group size. Second, the group unanimity. A person is more likely to conform when all the members of the group agree and give the same answer. The third one is social role. Being part of a social groups mean having considerable pressure to conform with the expectation of social role. Next, for the factors influence conformity for the personal factors, there are 4 factors. Firstly, the self-awareness. A person is more likely to conform when his or her publicly self-aware than privately. Second, self-complexity. The difficult the task, the more likely a person to conform with the judgment. Third, locus of control. A person can feel their own behavior, either having an internal locus of control or external locus control. And lastly, gender and age. Women tends to conform earlier than men, and by ages, younger people tends to conform than older people. Okay, for theories related to conformity, the first one is theory of psychological reactance. Reactance occur when a person drives to protect his or her own perceived personal freedom. The freedom to choose a behavior must exist in the first place. Thirdly, people who are using reverse psychology are the example of reactance attempting to influence someone to choose the opposite of what they request. The second theory is theory of minority influence. Minority influence refers to a form of social influence that is attributed to exposure of a consistent minority position in a group. The minority could influence the majority if they are consistent. They could change the majority style of thinking, showing the flexibility and compromise, and identify the similarities with the majority. By having a consistency in showing all of that, the minority might influence the majority view. So, for an example, I will show everyday example of conformity. The first one is rule. Following rules. We have to pay fine whenever we violate the rules and regulation. The second one is greetings. Greeting is the social norm that we will greet whenever we meet the person. And the third one is the following fashion. We always following the most updated fashion icons such as what and how to wear. So, for the second behavior is compliance. Compliance is a type of social influence where individual does what someone else wants them to do according to their request. There are 3 factors that influence compliance is group strength, immediacy, and reciprocity. For the group strength, group that are more important to the person will more likely to comply by the influence. Second, immediacy. The proximity of the groups makes an individual more likely to comply with group pressure. And for the third one is reciprocity. The expectations that someone have to return favor and good deeds. So next, there are 4 techniques to achieve compliance. The first one is foot in the door. The second is door in the face. The third is low ball technique. And the lastly is the that's not all technique. So for foot in the door technique, the subject is asked to perform a small request and after agreeing, a larger request is made. For the second one, door in the face, an initial large request that the subject is not expected to comply with. The large request is followed by the second, more reasonable request. For the low ball technique, a two-stripe strategy which the influencer secures agreement with a request by understanding its cause. And the last technique is that's not all. Is a 2-step of compliance which the influencer make a larger request, then offer a discount or bonus before the initial request is refused. Then for the third behavior is obedient. Obedient is a type of social influence where a person follows an order from another person who is usually an authority figure. So, there are 3 factors that influence obedience based on Milgram study. The first one is proximity of victim, the second is proximity of authority, and the last one is the presence of allies. So for the first one, proximity of victim, the closer the authority to the subject, it will touch proximity study, the lower the levels of obedience. For the second one, proximity of authority, the authority is giving instruction over the phone resulted in 23% of participants administering the maximum level of shock. And for the last one is the presence of lies. It is difficult to face an authority alone. The presence of other rebels helps with resistance to obedience. So next, for the implication of migrant shock study, the first one is results cannot be explained by gender, race, age, education, socioeconomic status, or country of origin. The second one, obedience to authority can keep people from following their own morals and standards. And the last one, ordinary people might perform cruelties in the process of obeying the authority figure. So for the last one, theory related to social influence. There's one theory called social impact theory. Social impact theory proposes that the amount of influence a person experiences in group settings depends on first, the strength or power of the group. The second one is immediacy of the group, and the third one is number of people in the group. Thus, a group that has many members rather than few members, high power rather than low power, and close proximity rather than the distant proximity should exert the most social influence on an individual. So, that's all from me. I will give the presentation to the next presenter. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Hafna Harito Ilma with metric number 281654. Today, I would like to talk about implication on social influence. There is confirmation or conformity type of social influence involving a change in thoughts, feelings, or behavior to fit in with a group. When a person in a group might express agreement on a plan they dislike because of others in a group appear to agree with it. Second is compliance. It's the act of yielding to an implicit or explicit demand. People are more likely to comply when they believe that they share something in common with the person making their request. The implication of compliance is when you buying something because a salesperson make a pitch and they ask you to make a purchase. Third is obedience. It's behaving on a certain way given an authority features instruction. The implication of obedience is employee in a fast food restaurant have to obey the rules in their place. With obedience will likely result of responsibility and disciplinarity. In conclusion, social influence consists of two basic forms, which is implicit expectation and explicit expectation. There is two types of social influence, normative and informational social influence. There are various groups in the social psychology environment, including primary groups and secondary groups. A primary group is a group in which there is intensive social interaction, where there is a good relationship between members of one another, from group members to one another having the intensity of meeting frequently enough so that one another knows each other better. The secondary group is a group that has less in-depth interaction between members than the primary group. This also causes estrangement from one member to another in the group and is not as incentivized as the primary group. The relationship in the secondary group is also generally more formal, objective, and there is lack of sense of kinship in it. From the presentation, we can conclude that there is three main behavioral consequences of social influence. First is conformity, second is compliance, and third is obedience. That's all from us. Thank you so much for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.